you have the same thing in your life for decades, whether it be children or a job or a marriage or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden everything comes to a halt and your best time is supposed to be ahead of you and you find yourself struggling. Once you start visualizing a positive outcome of whatever it is, that is a possibility that can happen. So if we just sit back and just stay with our present life, we're going to be fine, most likely. But if today could be better than yesterday, wouldn't that be great?
So many of us settle for good, but why settle for good when it can be great?
When there's so many avenues out there that can bring you to just like a little bit better spot, a little bit happier spot.
You can strive for more. Hello and welcome to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginzburg, the host of the podcast, a yoga and meditation teacher and philosophy lover. Each week you will hear eye-opening interviews with the different teachers of the Yandara Yoga Institute located in beautiful Baja, Mexico, along with other teachers that pass through here. This life-changing knowledge shared through authentic, heartfelt communication will help you live a happier, more fulfilled, and connected life. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to Curious Ones podcast by Yandara. I'm Yael Ginzburg, and today I'm recording from Baja. I'm at Yandara. I'm really happy to be back, connecting with all the incredible teachers. That means that you'll be receiving all your favorite teachers soon into your ears, into your pocket. I can't wait to share. Today is no exception. I have an inspiring teacher who just finished hosting a retreat here. She is a Yandara alum. She's been here many times, as many of you love returning here over and over. I'll tell you a little bit about her. She is a fitness instructor who turned to become a wellness practitioner, practicing yoga, breath and meditation. She leads retreats and is a specialist in these fields. And now she has more of a focus on women's transitional life coaching. And that's more what we're going to focus on today. So welcome to the podcast, Erin O'Rourke.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about this. And, this is a subject that meets anyone in life, no matter where we are, and it's the transitions, right? We have so many transitions, and really, I feel like a lot of times we don't know how to navigate them, so we just kind of like improvise and stress and have a hard time going through it. And I think there's a lot of value in getting assistance. So today I hope that you can be the coach for the people listening and help them wherever they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start by kind of explaining, what does it mean to be in transition? Maybe you can give examples.
So women's transitional life coach can be anybody that is any sort of transition. It started with women going through empty nesting, their kids leaving, also
That's
menopause.
How you started, right?
Yeah, through empty nesting. Menopause, women through divorce, women through career changes as well. So, and also retirement. I have a lot of older people as well through retirement. It's, you have the same thing in your life for decades, whether it be children or a job or a marriage or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden everything comes to a halt and your best time is supposed to be ahead of you. Some of the time, your best time is supposed to be ahead of you. And you find yourself struggling. I mean, I know I found myself struggling. I have 3 beautiful adult children. I've been married for almost 32 years. And I have a wonderful, wonderful life. And when my kids started leaving the empty nest, leaving the nest, I found myself being an empty nester thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be so great. And I had so much downtime. I had so much blah time. I found myself watching TV. I found myself waiting for my husband to get home. I found myself going, well, I'm too old to do anything now, so I'm just going to wait until like, I don't even know. I was still teaching classes, so that was great. So yeah, becoming an empty nester is when I first started. And then of course, depending on when you become an empty nester, if you become an empty nester, menopause is massive, it's huge. And for some people it hits, very, very hard. And for others, it just feels like just feeling kind of out of it. And then of course the big one is, going into retirement. Maybe you had a job for 30 years. Maybe you were just working for 30, 40 years and it came to a complete halt and it's supposed to be the best time of your life. And you become depressed because you don't have that ambition to get up in the morning and go do something. You don't have that drive anymore, or you don't even have an agenda for the day. And maybe the first couple weeks sounds great. And then after that, it's like, what do I do now? Everything costs money. Everything to do costs money. What do I do now?
I feel like the thing that really gives us a lot of vitality is when we're in sort of growth or when we feel that we're moving forward in our lives. I mean, I'm saying that from the perspective of
absolutely.
Someone who's more or less starting in the professional world.
Right.
But I find that gives us a lot of motivation just to do and create. But once you're past that and you're like, I've already done and I've already created, what gives you that motivation?
Well, I think when I look at not just my clients, not just my members, not just my friends and my family, growth almost can be a negative term. People feel that they've already grown. People feel that, well, I'm in my 50s, I should be good. And I don't have a problem because I have a great family and I have, a great job or not a great job. Whatever they have in their life, they're like, I should just be grateful, as opposed to going, you know what, I can still grow. I can grow until the day I'm gone. Why not continue to grow?
Yeah.
Why not look for maybe the next option or the next higher moment or something that I've always wanted to do or, so I feel like sometimes growth people get scared of. They think, no, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. Thank you for that, but I'm fine. And then they come to a retreat like I just led. And a lot of my women on the retreat were like, oh no, I'm good. Thank you. But, there might be like, I don't know, one or two things I want to look at. And then as we start to talk and dive in, it's like, oh, you mean just because I'm 54 doesn't mean I'm done? I can do that, So I think a lot of people, women, look at growth and go, you know what, I'm okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And not realize, oh no, there's so much more out there.
Yeah.
There's so much more to better ourselves.
100%. I also want to mention that I listened to a podcast, I think even years ago, and it stuck with me, this thing that even a transition or a point of transition, to veer a little off of where we're going, can be even coming back from work. You're transitioning, you've been in your work mode the whole day, and now you're transitioning into your home mode and who you are in that place, which could be different. And if we don't take the time to honor that transition, we can bring the energy of work into the home. So even mentioning that as a transition.
So I think that's funny you should say that, because the word transitioning to me is used in my everyday vocabulary, whether I'm teaching yoga or Pilates or whatever the case may be. A transition is just a moment in time. So for instance, when you're doing yoga and maybe my focus that day is transition, it's not just let's move into warrior one. It's that movement in between maybe downward facing dog and that slow movement into warrior one. That full movement is part of a transition. Transitioning from coming home from work from work into the home. What about the whole transition of leaving work, getting in your car, turning your car on, driving home, looking at everything around as you drive home, the trees, the color of the homes, turning your car off, sitting for a moment, walking in the door. That whole thing is a transition in itself. And those are moments in our day that are just as important as being at work, just as important as making dinner, sitting with your family. Those transitions are minutes in our day, hours in our day. I really try to push that a transition can be just a movement from time to time, and that each moment in our life is important. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. Because they're minutes, they're seconds, they're minutes, they're hours, and why shouldn't they be? Like this right here, this is a podcast that we're doing right here, but look at the transition that we did when you went down to Yandara, we walked up together, we talked to the gentleman downstairs, I walked into Christopher's, we looked around the house. That's important to me, not just sitting here and talking with you, but those minutes are all important to me. I'm going to remember those minutes just as much as I'm going to remember this conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people, the transitions get completely lost.
We want to rush through it.
We want to rush and then we just I want to leave here and get home and that's it. What about that great song you heard on the way home? Mm-hmm. What about those great ideas you had in your head about, what am I going to make for dinner? What about that thought of when you walk in the house to see, your child or your husband or something and embrace them? What about all those? Those are important. Uh-huh. So,
yeah, I even hear there's a teacher, Lacey Phillips, who talks a lot about manifestation. Mm-hmm. And she says that especially these moments when your mind is shut off because you drive so automatically because you're so used to it, especially in these moments, could be moments that epiphanies come to you and new ideas, and that thing that you're trying to figure out suddenly comes to you because you are in this state of, let's say you're not thinking too much and you kind of
autopilot.
Exactly. But that can be a space that new things come to you. It can be a space where you can clear the day and clear the energy from what happened. There is a lot of beauty in that transition. So let's go into the core of it.
Okay.
When somebody comes to you and is telling you, I'm struggling, I know I'm going through a change, or maybe they're not even aware that that's what is going on, where do you start?
So usually when somebody comes to me, we kind of have a 30-minute discovery call and we talk about, who I am and who they are, see if we're going to have a fit, and maybe barely just indulge into why they even entertain the idea of a discovery call. Usually what they say is not what's actually happening. Mm. So that's where the first consultations start to come in. I usually like to listen to them and hear key points. I do Zoom calls. So I like to watch their body language. I like to see when they spark up, when they pull back, because lots of times when they say something that they think I really want to do this, they're not happy about it. But then all of a sudden they come to something else and they have a huge smile on their face. Mm-hmm. So I will point those things out. And if something sparks them, we'll elaborate on that. I like to also start with have them list, 20 things that they absolutely love or absolutely want to do. It depends on the person, and things that they feel are no longer service in their life.
So what are they leaving behind, and where they should be going?
Maybe what they're leaving behind, not necessarily, but maybe no longer service. Maybe it could be something or that they don't like. And I know for a lot of people, it's are you supposed to focus in on that negative energy? Mm-hmm. But lots of times those things that they are not really liking in life, we can turn them around quickly. Mm-hmm. For instance, if there was somebody that says, I absolutely can't stand getting my kids in the car, that's bringing a lot of, I know it sounds silly, but if that's bringing a lot of negative energy, we will find a way that's more fun. And I've actually done that with a lot of people, Yeah. So I like to start with a couple lists, and then we start maybe comparing them, maybe chipping them off. And then what might be 10th on the list that they think is 10th might be first. Mm. I can tell by the way they talk, the way they act. And we go through a series of questions. Sometimes they know what's happening, sometimes they don't. Then we get down to the root of it. And then we kind of make another list and go, okay, what should be top of the list right here? Mm-hmm. As a life coach, I like to look at present and move future. I am not a therapist, so we don't drum up the past. The only time the past comes up is if it's interfering with the present or the future. Mm-hmm. We don't look back at the bad childhood or anything like that. We don't drum any of that stuff up. So we start from the present and move to the future. And what can we do in the process? Mm. So
when you make these lists, what is the reason you're making the list? What are you trying to really uncover there?
Their true desires, their true wants, their true likes, their true dislikes. Mm-hmm. Are we just going through the motion? Is there something in life that we can make happier and change, something of necessity that we just cannot stand, but can we make it happier? Or is it time to switch directions and move on? And lots of times it is switch directions and move on, yet they have no idea how, and they have no idea that they can. They absolutely think, no, they cannot do that. Yeah. So we start to pick apart of it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I totally get what you're talking about, because I find that a lot of times we might know that change is due, but we maybe don't know exactly what we want to do. And I find that a lot of times what happens is that we go for what is expected of us or what we're supposed to want to do, which isn't necessarily what we truly want to do. And you also spoke about like seeing where they light up and where they kind of shut down in a way. And that might be different than what we think. I had a client that we were talking about, she wanted to change careers and she was looking for a job in a certain field. And then just really at the end of the session, I said to her, like, you can also check if that's really what you want to do. And for her, that was like a wow moment, because she didn't even realize, she didn't even realize to look at why she's wanting to go to that direction, because she was trying and it wasn't working. The door wasn't opening. So I think that's an important step of the process to look at where you want to go and start to check, what are my motivations? Is it because it's something that I truly want, or is it something that maybe I was conditioned to?
Yeah, the other thing is kind of to piggyback on that is like, is that truly what you want? Lots of times there's blockers in the way. Lots of times there's areas in our life where we're having a hard time. Maybe they get anxiety, which everybody has anxiety. So when they say they don't have anxiety, that's, at some point we feel, like taken back for a moment, or there's hesitation, or there is, somewhere in there that is blocking. And I know you and I had discussed earlier about what styles that I use in life coaching. And it's not just about, okay, here's the questions. Here's, the list of 20, and here's the list of 20. We're going to compare and we're going to knock them off. What's making you block off this spot right here that you want? You keep telling me number 3, you really want to do. You really want to be this person. What's stopping you? What's blocking?
Yeah.
How
do you find that out?
You brought up manifestation. I love to use a lot of manifestation, and I usually call it visualization meditation because that's a little bit safer for people. And in my coaching via Zoom, I will work through somebody in a visualization meditation. Also, if there is triggers or something that blocking, using breath work, that kind of thing, to navigate through life so that they can shed some clarity, they can calm down.
So what about the breath work and the visualization? Like, how does that help them understand what is the block?
Clarity.
So when you get into
pulls
this
back
state,
and clarity.
It gives clarity.
For breath work, very much, okay, I am getting ready, I'm going to work, and I really don't want to do this job anymore, and I've got to, grab a couple things here, and pretty soon you get in your car and there's traffic, and you're just like, ugh, and you got to get to work, and you got to finish this big project that you have. That moment of breath work, which is easily taught of, inhale, exhale, which seems almost like Really? Is that going to work? 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, something super simple, or some box breath work. It resets the vagus nerve. It sheds clarity. It's all based on science. So pretty soon your world opens up and you're like, whoa, I wasn't even thinking about the traffic anymore. And no, I'm not concerned about getting there at some certain time. And oh, my clarity is shed from the project that I'll be doing, that type of thing. Meditation, visualization. We talked about transitions, driving to work. You know, you're thinking about that big project that you have going on. Instead of thinking about the big project and maybe like, oh, I hope I pull it off, or I'm running late, or this, visualize how that is going to play out as you walk in the door into your job, practice, whatever you're doing. What are the people? How do they respond to you? How do you respond to them? All that visualized work as you're driving, like you were talking about, is a perfect example.
Yeah, you just brought two really, really great examples. And what I understand from that is because when we're stressed or in fear or are stuck in, let's say, memories of the past, what that actually does in our body is activating our nervous system for kind of the flight or fight response.
Fight or flight, yeah.
Yeah. And when you're in that state, you don't have clarity. So just taking a few moments to do a few deep breaths or using some breath techniques helps you ground yourself and regulate yourself to be able to come into a more relaxed state. And that's where you find the clarity.
Yep, absolutely. And so through the life coaching, during their actual session, we will practice different styles of breath work. Maybe we'll take one for a certain time, and then they'll have a little work, and then another, and then they can pick what works for them. You know, they don't need to know the fancy names. They don't need to know, exactly the perfect way to do it. They need to recognize more so when that trigger happens, that they can come back to that breath work and that it is calming, that it sheds clarity, that it does reset the nervous system, that type of thing.
100%. And also about the visualization, before every podcast, I do that. I think about, or I see myself asking the questions in a certain way. I kind of visualize the conversation, and I do that in a lot of situations. Even my therapist taught me like choosing who you want to be. So I'm sure that's what you do.
Good girl. I love it.
It helps so much. This is a little bit funny, but it was such a good example. I was at an event recently, like a party, a big thing, and there was like a lot of people there. And even in that place where, there was so much going on and I found myself getting out of balance and maybe thinking about what other people think and stuff like that, I would close my eyes and recenter myself, be like, now I'm choosing to be loving or free or whatever it was. And I felt an immediate shift. So how do you do that with your clients? Can you expand on that more?
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, visualization and manifestation is true to my heart. I grew up with it since I was little. It's like so true to my heart. I grew up with a mother that always believed in visualization, and she didn't necessarily call it manifestation, but that's what it is, and meditation and everything else. So before I answer your question, just to piggyback on that whole visualization, when I planned my retreat this time, and I told my retreat people, I had 13 beautiful ladies, 12 in a retreat is full, and I said the maximum I would do 14, and I visualized 6 months before my retreat, seeing all the people on the beach. And the people that I originally thought were going to come were not a part of it. And for some reason, I kept seeing 13 people. And I didn't really think anything. I was like, well, that's weird. Nobody has 13 people at a retreat, You usually have an even number, but I kept seeing 13 people. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with it. And a week before my retreat, I told my husband, I said, oh my God, I forgot that I was visualizing 13 people, and I have 13 people. And that 13th person signed up like 3 weeks before the retreat.
Wow.
So my retreat people were like, okay, there's something to be said about this.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm quickly interrupting the episode to extend an invitation. If you are interested in deepening into any of the subjects we talk about on the podcast, we offer many different experiences on our beautiful grounds here in Baja, Mexico. From 9-day modules such as sound healing and yoga nidra, to breath and meditation, as well as 200 or 300-hour yoga teacher trainings, and many different shorter retreats. Check out our website, Yandara.com, to see all the information about the different experiences. Let's get back to the episode.
We're thinking about people who are going through a transition. How do you utilize it as a coach, and how do you guide them to do it by themselves?
So depending on the person, sometimes I will send them into a meditation or a safe space in their home, because we're via Zoom, and we will go through a scenario like a meditation would be, see yourself in this spot, and kind of name off things that would be happening, and they get to pick and choose what goes in that visualization. And then at the end, we talk about what they saw. And then when we see what they saw, sometimes they're surprised and sometimes they're not surprised.
What is the reason for doing that?
For visualization?
Yeah.
So that they can see what they truly want and they can see what they truly desire. Like when I visualized my retreat, I had no idea there was going to be 13 people. I was visualizing all these women on the beach. We were having a great time. And then I would visualize them in the yoga room. And, as opposed to, let's just turn it the other way. Why would we visualize it that way? Let's turn it the other way, which this is a lot of what most people have, is the opposite. The hesitation, the negativity. So they go like this, so I could have been a different retreat leader. I could have been like, okay, well, I just put down a deposit at Yandara for this, and I'm completely stressed out because nobody's signing up for my retreat, and I might get these couple people in that are kind of negative, and what if we're in yoga class, this happens, and this happens, and this happens.
Focusing on the bad things that can happen.
Right, making up stories in our head. Why not take all of that energy and put it into something positive? And as you put it into something positive, it changes your own personal outlook, which then changes the outlook that you give everybody else.
The vibration.
The energy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So why is it important? It's absolutely important to not only my clients, but to everybody out there. Because once you start visualizing a positive outcome of whatever it is, now, don't get me wrong. When you visualize a positive outcome, you also have to do the work. You 100% have to do the work. So if I visualized a positive outcome and I had 13 beautiful ladies and I sat here in my seat the whole time, they're not going to come to me. But if I go out there and I talk about it and I bring, give them the information, that is a possibility that can happen.
100%. And I know that also there has been a lot of studies around this and the effects. I know that professional athletes do a lot of visualization. There have been tests of people who just by visualizing using a certain muscle have grown the muscle, as opposed to people who actually were working on that same specific muscle. So it's definitely been proven to be very effective. Going back to the coaching process, when you're coaching somebody through a transition, we've talked about the breathing exercises, the visualization. What else do you help prioritizing our true desires as opposed to our untrue desires, let's say? What else do you utilize in that process?
So when we talk about our true desires and, the positives and the negatives and everything else, we also have to get into basics. And lots of times it's things as we're not setting our boundaries. We're not physically or nutritionally taking care of ourselves. We're not creating space for ourselves. We're holding on to negative thoughts. So when we look at our true desires, let's just say an example of somebody says, I'm an empty nester. I want to go off. I want to start my career, but I still have 40 pounds to lose from menopause. And, my kids are taking up all my money and da-da-da-da. Okay, let's rewire and let's get back to, yes, you do want to start your career. Yes, you do want to find something for you, but currently you're not in a physical, mental, or emotional state to go on and do that. So let's set our boundaries first. First of all, let's set our boundaries and say, your adult kids, they're off in college. You don't need to worry about them. Your husband, he went off to work. You don't need to worry about them. So this is time for you. What are things that are going to benefit you? I'm huge on some sort of morning ritual for grounding, whether it be breath work, meditation, affirmations, gratitude, movement. I like to also have my clients create 3 to 5 minutes. I don't want to say 20 or 30 minutes. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. 3 to 5 minutes will ground you. And then let's get to you. Do you have 40 pounds to lose? Do you feel like crap? Do you have lack of energy? Because all of those things, I come from the nutrition background. I come from exercise and feeding not only your mind and your soul, but your body with healthy stuff. And when those things happen, you feel better about yourself. So we get on track for there. Maybe we need to plan a schedule out. Maybe we need to say, okay, 6 a.m. wake up call, 6:10 morning rituals, 7 o'clock, get yourself ready for the day. Put a bright colored shirt on, pep yourself up. A lot of these people, they are walking around in, head to toe black yoga clothes with a ponytail. It's amazing what happens when you put your hair in some curls and a little bit of lipstick and put a bright colored shirt on and you go to the gym. And then pretty soon you come home and you feel good. So getting yourself grounded first, physically, nutritionally, and then set your boundaries and your energy levels. Then let's move on. Okay, now we're taking care of you. Now you feel good about yourself. And we are 6 weeks in. 6 weeks in and we're feeling good. Let's dive into the next. Let's dive into looking at the jobs. What do we want to do? What's your love? How much money do you need to make? Do you need to make this much money or do you need to make this much money? Or do you need to make no extra money and you just need to go out and benefit the world?
Beautiful. I love that because I think that's so true. If we're starting from a place where we're kind of in a minus, of energy, of vitality, of motivation, then there's nothing that you can do from that state that will really bring benefit for you. You first have to stabilize yourself. And sometimes what makes you feel better and more energized is just putting some effort into how you look, cleaning yourself, making yourself feel taken care of. And that already lifts you up.
Absolutely. Sometimes I even have, depending on where my clients are, sometimes I even have them stand in front of the mirror after they put their favorite colored shirt on or whatever and just start talking or singing or say a couple of affirmations. And when you say something out loud, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to sit there, gratitudes, you say it out loud, you're 50% more likely to feel it and to feel energized and to remember it. And going back to that whole transition of, whether you're driving in the car or here or there, that's a great time for your affirmations and your gratitudes. And you take that morning ritual, 3 to 5 minutes, and there was an affirmation in there or a gratitude, I love my soul. I am creative today. And then it rings true and you're driving in the car and you say it again and you say it again. You got your bright colored shirt on and you stop and get your favorite coffee and then pretty soon you're productive.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, you like yourself again.
Yeah. So let's go deeper into that because we're talking about the small things that you can do, dressing up nicely, maybe putting boundaries is a pretty big deal. But what are the practices that you work with to help people increase their inner strength, their self-worth, and their motivation to even want to, or give themselves permission to take up space and start something new, even if it's in a later stage in life?
It really depends on what that person is drawn to. Affirmations is a big one. I lead them on some, and affirmations, I like to describe affirmations as, gratitudes are a thank you. Affirmations are something powerful about yourself. right off the bat in the morning, if they are struggling, if they are like, yeah, I can put a bright colored shirt on, yeah, I can smile myself in the mirror, which are huge things, by the way. They're not small. Like once people do those, it's like it changes their whole. But if they need not if they need more, they should always say some affirmations about yourself. And how do you do that? You know what? We have everything at our fingertips. You Google affirmations, you pull it up. And I also say, trust what the universe is giving you. Don't search for it. Trust what the universe is giving you. So if you pull up an affirmation, it's right there and it says it, live with it for the day. Don't search for the affirmation you want. Live with it, and see what it says to you. Say it several times. If you need to sink even deeper, and always a good idea, sit there in silence for a moment. See where your mind goes and wanders, and then bring it back to that affirmation. So sit there in silence. Your mind goes, it wanders all around what I should be doing, and bring back that affirmation. If that's too difficult, bring back a single word. One single word. Maybe the word love, maybe the word strong. And sit there in that silence mode, and with that one single word, maybe see it written in cursive, see it written in print, spell it, maybe say it out loud. Have those grounding moments. And then give yourself a list for the day. All right, I've been working with Erin for 3 sessions. I feel a little bit stronger and a little bit better about myself, but here is the list of what we looked at. Okay, she wants me to make an agenda for today. Make the agenda for today. Where is my nutrition? Where is my physical work? Where is my boundaries in here? And did I do my morning affirmations? And start to check those things off. What do I want to do to give myself fun for the day? Do I want to plant a flower? Do I want to go and look at, something at the mall? Do I want to explore outside and do some gardening? Do I want to go for a walk, take my dog? That kind of thing.
So listening to what you
absolutely
want to
and
do.
what the universe gives you, and you asked, what does that mean? What the universe gives you? If you just sit for a moment and look around what the universe gives you, and go soak it in. For instance, this podcast right here. About 3 years ago, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. If you could have, come across and said, Erin, you're going to be sitting down at Yandara doing a podcast 3 years from now, I'd be like, you're insane. But 3 years ago, I listened to the signs of what was going to take me next. And I kept following those signs. There were lots of little signs along the way. To all the way, and I have visited Yandara here several times for the past 2 years. Yandara is transforming to me. It's definitely transformational. And then I finished the retreat, and now I'm sitting here at a podcast. All those little steps along the way that the universe told me and gave me, I listened to.
How do you recognize a sign from the universe?
You believe in it. You believe it. You don't turn your head.
You're open to the conversation with the universe.
You're open.
Beautiful. In your work, you also talk about letting our why lead us through a transition. Would you like to expand on that?
So if we just sit back and just stay with our present life and, tick away, check off the boxes, we're going to be fine, most likely. Maybe some of us are going to be less fine, some of us are going to be more fine. But exploring the why as to why not test the waters and lead a little bit better life and a little bit better and a little bit better. And that's not so much more of more money, bigger house, fancier car. That's more of, God, if today could be better than yesterday, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? And I know that sounds cliche, but the small little things that we coach and do, and then all of a sudden it leads to something big, pretty soon, here I am, 3 years later.
And I don't think that it's small because it kind of ties to where we started. It's about any stage that you are in life. You can always keep growing and learning, and it's not over. I mean, I just was talking about this yesterday with Das, who's one of the most prominent people here at Yandara. He's in his 70s already. He's an incredible teacher, and just yesterday he said to me something that really made me like taken aback. He said that since our first podcast conversation, he's evolved so much. And I just looked at him and I said, that's just incredible, because many people in your age, they kind of give up. And I don't want to put my mom on the spot, but just a few days ago, she was like, I'm 75. What else do I have to learn? And I was like, no, you have so much more to learn.
I think that kind of goes back to the whole thing of the word growth, and people get a little scared of growth.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to like, no, I'm okay and I'm fine. Yeah. And okay, you are okay and you're fine. And you know what? I was okay and I was fine, but I wanted more. I knew that for me, even though I've got 3 beautiful children, all very successful, I've been married for almost 32 years, I knew that there was something more out there. And I could still be doing the same thing that I was doing before, teaching classes and, waiting until my husband got home from work and counting down the days until he retired. Or I could indulge in, what's Erin really want to do? What does Erin want to feel like when she wakes up? Do I just want to feel like, okay, it's time to take the dogs out for a walk and go get coffee? Or does Erin want to feel like, I want to feel amazing?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm super excited. Oh my God, I'm planning this retreat, going to Yandara, one of the greatest places ever.
Yeah.
Why not have some growth? And
so true.
That's like Das. Das is an amazing human being. And for him to continually looking and growing is so inspiring for all of us. Why do you think people come back to Yandara?
Right.
Because they want to see Das, they want to see Mercy, they want to see Christopher, they want to see everybody.
Right.
I
think that's such an important point. So many of us settle for good, but why settle for good when it can be great? Like you can keep expanding and finding moments of awe and growth and change and transformation at any stage. And I find that's not only people later in life that have that mindset. I feel like even younger people could be stuck in that mindset of like, things are good. I'm just gonna not rock the boat and keep things as they are. But you can strive for more.
Absolutely. And when you go back to the younger generation, there's transition there as well. They're graduating from college, or they're moving job to job, or they moved out of the house. All that kind of stuff. And, our youth is just expected to, this is what you do, and this is, you do it and just feel the way you feel, as opposed to, I have a almost 24-year-old, 27 and 29-year-old, and watching them grow, but actually watching them grow and be happy is a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different scenario,
Yeah. Beautiful. Erin, this has been so lovely. Is there anything else that you want to add that you think is important, or for a message for somebody going through a transition now?
What I would say is, whether you're going through a transition or a moment, or just have that whole of, I want to grow too. Listen to the universe is telling you. The universe is speaking to you. And there's so many avenues out there that can bring you to just like a little bit better spot, a little bit happier spot. Even if you think you're the happiest person in the world, why not explore more? Never stop learning. Never stop growing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. The universe is always guiding you.
Always guiding you.
So just to wrap this beautiful conversation up, I always end with the same question. What are you curious about right now?
I am probably curious about my next step in life, because whatever my next step in life is, and I know the universe is going to show me, I get to share it with everybody else. So,
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I get to share it with everybody else? So my next step in life, as I grow through my next step in life, I share it with everybody else in my retreats, in my coaching, in my teachings. And, so that's what I mean. What do I know my next step in life is? I have an idea, but, maybe you have to wait and see.
Yeah. I also want to emphasize a point that I'm picking up from what you're saying in this transition. Like, it's not only on us. We don't have to do everything ourselves. The universe is doing it with us. It's guiding us. It's showing us the way. It's supporting us. It's bringing us the resources and the information that we need during this transition. So bringing an element of trust in there throughout the process, I think for me at least, it's been very helpful. And I hear that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And I believe you need to be open to that. And, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for people to be open to that. And if you're not, we can still plug some stuff in for that transition. Don't have to be open to the universe yet. But if not, we,
Believe me, the listeners of this podcast.
You never know. You never know who's out there.
Great, Erin. This has been so lovely.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Now, after this time to nurture your mind and your spirit, we invite you to take a moment to consider others. A kind wish might come to mind. Know that what we learn becomes more valuable when we apply it and share it with others. So share this episode on Instagram stories, tag Yandara and I, or share with a loved one so that more people can benefit from it. Our hope is that the search will lead you home to who you already are, to what was always there. We'll be back next week with more inspiration, honest conversation, and insight into the energetic world around us. Thank you for listening and watching.